Airbnb started out in 2008 when founders Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia realized that they could make a quick buck by renting out an air mattress in their living room to people visiting San Francisco for a big conference. From there, the idea then evolved into a website where people could do the same and the travelers could get a cheaper option than a hotel. Fast forward 2021, Airbnb today has revolutionized the travel industry, and even though they have been around for more than 11 years, they are still growing at a rate where most businesses can only dream of. So today, my group, consisting of Gordon Wong, En Jie Sing, Ian Song, Jared Au, and myself, Kimberly Goh, have investigated Airbnb's business model, and we will share with you why they have been so successful in convincing people to open up their homes and allowing strangers to stay. As shown on our executive summary, we'll be covering Airbnb business model and what led to their success today. After which, we'll explore the reasons why Airbnb is considered to be a disruptive model and which industries did they disrupt. We'll also be looking at the major challenges faced by them and how they should overcome these issues. Lastly, we'll discuss the pros and cons of the sharing economy as well as its future. So, who exactly is Airbnb? In its simplest form, Airbnb is an accommodation booking engine which allows people looking for a short term accommodation to find somewhere to sleep at night. And who are we targeting with their business? Airbnb is targeting the travelers and hosts, as these two segments are vital for Airbnb's business structure because they are the center of profitability. For the travelers, we are looking at those that are perhaps on a tighter budget and would rather spend more money on the activities itself. While for the hosts, the reasons why they are willing to rent out the places vary. Some might be willing to make some quick buck out of it, or the rest might want to meet new interesting people. So how exactly does Airbnb work? It is essentially an online platform that brings these two parties together through a series of filters and rating systems so that these two parties can find the right match in finding the perfect spot to stay that is still within the budget and having a guest that will be responsible when utilizing the space. From which they charge via a split fee system where the host pays 3% and the guest pays 15% service fee. So why would a traveler rather use Airbnb versus hotels.com, Trivago, or the myriad of other websites available? Aside from cheaper prices, we'll be studying the value propositions that Airbnb has to offer that makes it so successful in today's context. And there are 4 points. The local experience offered, Airbnb's website, the low asset model, as well as their dual rating system. Firstly, the local experience. Nothing sums up better than their campaign tagline, don't go there, live there. By listing the properties of ordinary people, they set themselves apart by offering a different experience to travelers. What Airbnb is offering is not just a cheap place to sleep, but an opportunity to experience your destination as a local would. It is a chance to meet the locals, experience the markets, and find the non-tourist places. Recently, there is even an expansion in the services they provide, named Airbnb Experiences, where activities are designed and led by inspiring locals that will go beyond typical tours and classes by immersing guests in each host's unique world. Airbnb goes beyond just offering properties. They believe in offering an experience and a way of traveling. Next, the Airbnb website. Compared to their competitors, Airbnb focuses on creating the ultimate user experience from the start when customers first land on their page. Their website is intuitive and user-friendly for all users. Cookies are also used to create a personalized recommendation through a series of filters for guests to find a home that fits their requirement. Last but not least, Airbnb recognized the importance of beautiful aesthetic photographs used when showcasing their host homes. So these improvements and refinements help Airbnb do something previous sharing companies hadn't managed to acquire an aura of style, respectability, safety, and trustworthiness. These photos in particular make the location seem prestigious compared to bad blurry photos on other sites, and it is these tiny initial differences that leads to cascades. Airbnb requires low amount of assets as they essentially do not own any of the rooms except their technological platform for the travelers and hosts to connect. This means that they have low operating costs compared to traditional brick and mortar because the company doesn't own the property, thus enabling them to earn large amount of revenue at minimal cost levels. Their dual rating system has gained a lot of clout when it first came about because both hosts and guests are now able to rate each other. This was effective in building a sense of trust, accountability, and credibility for both hosts and guests. Especially because now we're dealing with strangers, trust can now be built on real comments from the guests and the response of the host. Now I'll pass the time on to Gordon to share with us more about what were the strategies Airbnb had taken that catapulted their growth.
Thanks, Kimberly. I'm Gordon Wong, and for this section, I'll be answering one question and one question specifically. What did Airbnb do to scale so fast and become so successful in such a short period of time? To provide a comprehensive and all-rounded perspective for this question, I'll be exploring it from four different angles. Firstly, I'll be examining the current market gaps. This will be followed by the changes that Airbnb made to its internal processes. Third, the external go-to-market strategies that Airbnb employed. And last but not least, a brief competitor analysis. There were three main trends that were prevalent during the conception of Airbnb. Firstly, there was a drastic shift in average consumer purchasing habits towards online channels. Two, the rapid rise in cost-conscious consumers due to consumers' ability to make quick price comparisons over the internet. And three, consumers being more lax with regards to their privacy. So, how did Airbnb exactly capitalize on such trends? Well, they managed to provide their service offerings via a digital marketplace. They also boasted low and affordable prices compared to large hotel chains. Finally, they rolled out initiatives like the dual rating system as well as the damage guarantee terms to provide a greater sense of safety and security to both guests and hosts alike. Moving on, Airbnb's ability to scale up quickly was also due to a combination of great internal processes and effective go-to-market strategies. On one hand, Airbnb made the necessary changes to its internal SOPs along the way, such as 1. Restructuring their internal departments and workflows, 2. Reframing the entire brainstorming process, and 3. Prioritizing host and guest experiences over other considerations like revenue. On the other hand, Airbnb employed effective go-to-market strategies in the following ways. Number one, reducing friction for consumer onboarding processes. Number two, excellent host acquisition strategies. Number three, staying true to their vision of providing authentic experiences. This dual-pronged approach by Airbnb had one underlying theme, which was to deliver the ultimate user experience. For the restructuring of their internal departments and workflows, Airbnb has employed the following measures: a 24/7 customer service hotline, setting up of a trust and safety department, as well as reforming the compensation policies, whereby Airbnb offered a whopping $1 million in damage guarantees per booking. The end result was a drastic drop in negative incidents, with more than 500,000 stays logged, but only less than 1% of stays in 2013 resulted in property damages. For the reframing of Airbnb's entire brainstorming process, they specifically hired a pixel animator to create illustrations of each stage of the perfect Airbnb trip. These illustrations were to be hung around in the office. During the initial stages, they also ditched the idea that every single solution rollout has to be scalable. This allowed them to come up with bold and effective ideas like the Airbnb photography program, which will be further elaborated later on. Next, throughout the initial stages of Airbnb, they constantly prioritized host and guest experiences over other considerations like revenue. They were willing to incur huge costs to hire the right people, like designers and photographers, to improve the sense of style and quality of the listing photos. They were also tenacious in their expansion plans, oftentimes coming into close brushes with the law in several regions. As such, this long-term vision ultimately allowed them to flourish in the long term. On the flip side, Airbnb has taken painstaking efforts to minimize the friction for its consumer onboarding processes. This was done through 1. Simplifying the payment process, 2. Redesigning of user experience and user interface to convey a sense of style and trustworthiness, and 3. Leveraging user cookie data to provide more personalized recommendations. This resulted in them successfully overcoming the trust barrier for guests and led to a massive 10 million signups by guests logged in 2014. Airbnb also employed effective host acquisition strategies through a variety of ways. 1. Making it convenient for hosts to list their places by providing free photography services. 2. Free listing services and tapping onto Craigslist user base to allow hosts to maximize their exposure at little to no cost. And 3. Advising hosts on the optimal listing price using predictive analysis and a price calculator. Making the host onboarding process as smooth as possible was a key factor in them exceeding expectations with 800,000 homes listings as of 2014. And finally, Airbnb ensured that its community initiatives are always in line with providing authentic experiences. They came up with Airbnb neighborhoods as well as Airbnb local lounges, which allowed guests to use their interests to help them select a place to stay. After acquiring Local Mind, they leveraged the platform to allow guests to further clarify information with the locals. Such initiatives was a huge success, featuring more than 300 neighborhoods in 7 cities at the time of launching. Moving on to our competitor analysis, the major players that Airbnb is competing with in the hospitality industry are huge hotel chains like Hyatt and Marriott Hotel, as well as hostel chains like Wombat and Simsum Backpackers Hostel. Their relative position can be visualized as shown, where the two major criteria for evaluation will be affordability as well as amenities and experiences. For the hostel chains, Airbnb is able to effectively compete with them on the grounds of affordability and yet offer better amenities and local experiences to its guests through initiatives like the Airbnb neighborhood. Making a comparison with hotel chains, Airbnb does not lose out in terms of offering and experiences. However, they are able to do so at a much lower price. As such, because of the unique position of their product offerings, they were able to effectively differentiate themselves from the others, and this contributed to their rapid success. They soon became the poster boy of the sharing economy, disrupting industry that was previously thought to be untouchable. But what is disruption? What exactly is Airbnb disrupting? Well, my teammate Jason will now walk you through on this.
Thank you, Gordon. I'm Jiesing, and moving on from Airbnb's growth, I'll be discussing on their disruption model and its impact. So what is a disruption model? A company with a disruptive model essentially has fewer resources, but yet is able to challenge established incumbent businesses. So I think it's quite clear that this disruption is happening to the hospitality industry. Traditionally, a visitor would rent a room from the hotel, and this has been the case since the 18th century. However, as Airbnb came into the picture, they disrupted the hotel industry by opening a completely new channel for a visitor to select from. As discussed earlier by Kim, you can see from the diagram how Airbnb's intricate business model works. Airbnb generates their revenue by charging a service fee to both the visitor and the host. By creating a platform for visitors and hosts to connect, this essentially created a substitution effect as visitors can now choose to stay at locations apart from the traditional hotel. Airbnb also made use of key concepts like social commerce, SEO, and most importantly, advertising to drive their growth when the company was at its awareness stage. So on your right is the traditional hotel visitor relationship that we discussed earlier. However, once Airbnb came into the picture, it created a new channel in the hospitality industry, resulting in more options and the ability to choose a different experience. Airbnb provided a seamless booking experience which often had lower prices compared to the traditional hotels. Although a different experience altogether, visitors often pick Airbnb because of the lower cost and also the homestay experience that they pride themselves to be one of their unique selling points. Hence, Airbnb is said to have a disruptive model because it directly challenged the older and more established hotel businesses and created a completely novel that appealed to visitors while at the same time keeping costs low. So no doubt, the industry being disrupted is the hospitality industry. Based on a study in 2018 across 10 key hotels in the US, as Airbnb grew, revenue per room, or RevPAR, has seen a decrease. A 1% growth in Airbnb has seen an average of 0.02% decrease in RevPAR across all the hotels. Just in Boston alone, the hotel saw a 2.5% decrease in RevPAR, which is equivalent to $5.8 million lost to Airbnb, and that was only in 1 year. Just between 2014 to 2019, you can see how much Airbnb has grown in Europe. So you can imagine how much RevPAR has decreased and how much revenue has Airbnb captured due to their exponential growth. As Airbnb's revenue continues to skyrocket, hotels should be increasingly concerned about their revenue potentially falling even further. Although COVID-19 has caused a fall in demand, this impact is widespread across the hospitality industry and not just Airbnb's. So as Airbnb continues to grow, traditional hotels will continue to see a loss in market share to Airbnb. In response, my team has suggested 3 ways for the hotel industry to counter the risk posed by Airbnb. Firstly, hotels definitely need to understand how much of their region is dominated by Airbnb. So they need to understand the average prices, the RevPAR of that region, and this can all be done with technology and data analytics. This is necessary to stay competitive as demand and supply is always changing. So having a clear grasp of the market dynamics will allow hotels to stay competitive in terms of their pricing and their understanding of the needs of consumers. This highlights the importance of predictive and prescriptive analytics to keep up with the proliferation of Airbnb. Secondly, hotels can focus on improving their hotel services. A key feature that differentiates a hotel and an Airbnb is the hotel services and amenities. Hotels have staffs available around the clock, and there is a huge potential there. A more welcoming and personalized experience may enable hotels to keep up with Airbnb's homely experience. Airbnbs typically also do not have many amenities. So by improving and what we call 增 their amenities, hotels with new gyms, a stunning pool, and a jacuzzi may end up enticing visitors to pick them instead of an apartment from Airbnb. Lastly, hotels definitely need to improve their marketing message. Before Airbnb, there was only competition among hotels. But now as technology advances and individuals are becoming more impatient, the seamless and hassle-free booking of Airbnb seems to be the way to go. Hotels need to improve how they market and set themselves apart from others be it having something trendy, improving their booking systems, or even rebranding themselves to stand out may be necessary to maintain their stake in the accommodation market. Now, I'll pass my time to Ian.
To start off, a brief overview of the challenges can be segmented into three different perspectives. Firstly, external factors, which refers to the current COVID-19 pandemic. Secondly, government stakeholders, which refers to the legal concerns and battles faced by Airbnb. And lastly, the people factor, whereby Airbnb has impacted the locals' quality of life and also caused negative guest experiences. So let's start with the first challenge, COVID-19. As all of you know, it has upheaved the tourism industry entirely, leading to a $1 trillion loss on tourism receipts. Airbnb has not been spared, as the occupancy rates have dropped all across the world, leading to lower commission rates and hence a drop in revenue. However, the management team of Airbnb responded swiftly to adapt and launched three powerful mitigation strategies. The first of which offered full refunds for affected guests and a huge relief fund for hosts. Although this affected its bottom line, it helped to retain the trust of all parties. Airbnb also mandated enhanced cleaning initiatives to alleviate the concern of guests and reduce the danger of the virus spread. And lastly, they redesigned new products such as online experiences to take advantage of the pandemic and thus maintain their revenue levels. These three strategies have successfully mitigated the adverse impacts of the pandemic, as seen from its latest Q4 2020 earnings, where it surpassed analyst estimates by 15%. Moving on to the second challenge, which involves the many legal battles that Airbnb is embroiled in. In major cities like New York City, Barcelona, and Paris, it can be seen that a significant proportion of listings are illegal. But how does this affect Airbnb in any way? Well, it affects their profits as they are compelled to pay millions of dollars in fines every single year. And not only that, but public perception of Airbnb will be skewed due to the reputation of encouraging illegal activities. Lastly, the revenue will also be severely impacted due to more and more cities, such as New York City and Singapore, banning Airbnb completely. In a bid to mitigate this threat, Airbnb has agreed to hand over personal data of hosts to several governments, appoint inspectors to verify hosts, and also use machine learning to detect potential violations of regulations. Airbnb's third major challenge is how the proliferation of Airbnb operations has affected locals in two distinct ways. Firstly, neighborhoods rife with Airbnb listings have led to increased rental rates for local residents, as hosts can earn more renting on Airbnb than to locals. Secondly, some Airbnb guests cause a public nuisance to local residents because of party houses, where guests throw massive parties, and also the constant stream of different tourists checking in and out at all hours. These two factors ultimately cause the public to have negative perceptions of Airbnb and may encourage governments to take stiffer actions against them to protect the interests of the general populace. Moving on to Airbnb's fourth and final challenge, poor customer experiences. Found a cheap Airbnb for $52. Cleaning fee for one night, $125. Nonsense. This viral Twitter post exemplifies the frustration caused by a lack of transparent prices, which contains many hidden fees, such as cleaning, service, VAT, and premium fees. Besides, there have been many customer complaints about racist hosts, which caused many groups to boycott Airbnb and push for greater reform. In response, Airbnb banned 1.3 million racist hosts and also enacted various measures to mitigate discriminatory practices. Now that we have covered the four main challenges faced by Airbnb, namely COVID-19, legal concerns, locals' quality of life, and negative guest experiences, we then have to ask ourselves whether the business model of Airbnb is indeed sustainable in the long run. To do so, we have to assess the severity of each challenge based on its longevity, difficulty in solving, and also impact. Upon deeper analysis, we've concluded that Airbnb's challenges are not exactly life-threatening, considering the three different criteria. The most worrisome is mainly legal concerns, with the highest score of 15. Thus, we believe that the business model of Airbnb is largely sustainable. However, it must be wary of its most pertinent threat, the consequences that come with legal battles and unpredictable and unfavorable government policies. They are extremely unpredictable and may cause Airbnb to topple. Thus, it is absolutely crucial for Airbnb to cooperate with global governments to the best of their abilities. Now, I'll be handing over my time to Jared.
Thank you, Ian. My name is Jared, and I'll be talking about the sharing economy in which Airbnb operates in, and if the concept is here to stay. The sharing economy is a peer-to-peer based concept where idle assets such as vacant rooms or spare time are shared between private individuals. Online platforms such as Grab and Airbnb help to connect providers and obtainers, allowing these idle assets to be monetized. The propelling of the sharing economy is partly owing to the high internet penetration rates. As of 2021, there are almost 4.7 billion active internet users, close to a 60% global internet penetration rate. The sharing economy is projected for continued growth at a rate of 14.3%. Gross transactions are estimated to reach 455 billion USD by 2023, with sectors within the sharing economy expected to grow at different paces. In our opinion, the sharing economy is the next big thing, but what are the benefits that give it this status? To better understand the benefits, let me present an alternative scenario to Airbnb to showcase the sharing economy. A situation familiar to most. I'm looking to carpool with someone for my commute to school. On the Grab platform, I, as an obtainer, can utilize the Grab Hitch feature to connect with a provider to carpool with him, paying him a fee for the trip. For the obtainer, socio-economic benefits come in the form of lower costs. With the cost of living steadily rising, there has been a shift in consumer preferences. In Singapore, for example, car ownership is low at 11% of the population. GrabHitch has contributed to this low ownership, where people are able to travel to work by private car at a lower cost compared to owning a car or taking a taxi. This also removes the worry of things like car maintenance and parking that comes with ownership. On GrabHitch, the owner of the car earns additional income by offering this carpool service. Thus, for providers, the sharing economy allows them to earn additional income, earning money from their personal items at almost no marginal cost. Third parties receive socio-economic benefits too. Carpooling reduces traffic congestion, saving time for all road users, whereas platforms like Airbnb can strengthen communities. 72% of Airbnb properties are located outside traditional hotel districts, and 42% of their day is spent within these neighborhoods. This results in more money being spent within these neighborhoods, benefiting the local communities. The sharing economy also positively affects the environment by eliminating waste and pollution. In the case of GrabHitch, carpooling reduces the number of cars on the road, in turn reducing the amount of carbon dioxide release. In Europe, carpooling platform BlaBlaCar found its users reduced carbon dioxide emissions by nearly 1.6 million tons in 2018. If carpooling were adopted all over the world, the sharing economy could potentially reduce emissions by a great deal. This is just one example of how sustainability is promoted, with many other industries also becoming more sustainable because of the sharing economy. From this, we see that the sharing economy can help improve society while also promoting sustainability. Besides the earlier mentioned technologies that have been employed and have helped shape Airbnb, what other technologies have since been adopted and is being developed that will ensure the sharing economy and Airbnb continues to grow? Airbnb plans to have widespread usage of virtual and augmented reality. VR uses 360 photos and 3D scans. It allows users to step inside a home or city, giving them a better idea of their Airbnb location. This creates a sense of safety and trustworthiness as users know what to expect from the Airbnb location. AR will provide greater convenience and connect the user to the host in more immersive ways. AR can also help to reduce the stresses of the environment. Possible uses of AR could perhaps occur from the provision of information on how to operate a tricky thermostat in a foreign language. Airbnb has also adopted and is developing their business analytics and artificial intelligence. This will better improve the user experience and maximize bookings. Firstly, Airbnb plans to evaluate guest trustworthiness by further utilizing predictive analytics to assess a user's risk.
Flagging.
Keywords or images associated to the user that have a negative connotation, such as drugs or hate organizations. Following this, the user is flagged for safety concerns if he has a high risk score. The system will assure hosts that their homes will be protected, fostering trust between both parties. Secondly, photos can be categorized using computer vision and deep learning. The system identifies photos and reorders them to provide the most informative photos that the user demands. It also ensures the quality of the photos uploaded by hosts, advising them on how they can improve the appeal of their photos, maximizing bookings. Lastly, by recognizing the intent of in-app messages through conversational AI, a seamless communication experience is created for users. The system identifies the intent of the guest and provides suggestions to address their needs. This ensures timely replies and efficient transactions. Thus, improving guest experiences with technology could ensure that the sharing economy and Airbnb continues to grow. Like what Head of Product Joseph Zade says, with an emphasis on experience, good things will happen. To conclude, Airbnb and the sharing economy has largely benefited from the use of technology, be it through the utilization of e-commerce to facilitate online transactions and to connect users, or by taking advantage of business analytics to help enhance its user experience. Our opinion is that for the sharing economy and Airbnb to continue to grow, we believe that it is important they continue to employ and develop technology efficiently while also addressing their biggest challenge, complying with the law. Thank you for your attention.